My fiancée forced me to adopt her best friend's child as a wedding favor. I refused and canceled everything. My fiancée and I had been together for 3 years, and things were going great. We just bought a house together, our careers were on track, and we were excited about starting our lives together. She'd always been close with her best friend, let's call her BF, and I never had any issues with their friendship. BF was a single mom with a 4-year-old son, and my fiancée often helped her out with babysitting and other support. One evening, after a long day at work, I'm in sales. I came home to find my fiancée sitting at the kitchen table, looking nervous. She asked me to sit down, saying she had something important to discuss. I figured it was about the wedding plans, but boy, was I wrong. Honey, she started, her voice trembling slightly. You know how much BF has been struggling lately with her son? I nodded, unsure where this was going. BF had recently lost her job and was having a hard time making ends meet while caring for her child. Well, I've been thinking, my fiancée continued, and I think I've found a solution that could help everyone. She took a deep breath and dropped the bomb. I want us to adopt BF's son as a wedding gift to her. I sat there stunned. Surely, I must have misheard her. But as she continued talking, explaining how it would be such a beautiful gesture and how it would solve all of BF's problems, I realized she was dead serious. Are you out of your mind? I finally managed to say. We can't just adopt a child as a wedding favor. My fiancée looked hurt. Why not? We've talked about having kids someday. This way, we'd be helping BF and getting a head start on our family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. We had indeed talked about having kids someday, but that was supposed to be our decision, made together when we were ready. Not some impulsive act of charity for her friend. This isn't like adopting a puppy, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. We're talking about a human being, a child who already has a mother. Have you even considered the legal implications? The emotional impact on the kid? My fiancée waved off my concerns. BF is on board with the idea. She thinks it's best for everyone. We have a stable home, good jobs, and we can provide for him better than she can right now. I felt like I was in some bizarre alternate reality. How could she think this was okay? And what about BF? She'd just give up her child like that. She wouldn't be giving him up entirely, my fiancée argued. She'd still be in his life as our friend. It's more like shared custody, but we'd be the primary caregivers. I shook my head, feeling a mixture of disbelief and anger rising within me. This is insane. We can't do this. I won't do this. My fiancée's expression hardened. I thought you'd be more understanding. This is important to me, and it would mean so much to BF. Can't you at least consider it? But I couldn't. The more I thought about it, the more wrong it felt. Not only was it a massive life decision being sprung on me out of nowhere, but it also felt like a violation of the trust I'd placed in our relationship. We were supposed to be partners, making important decisions together, not unilaterally deciding to adopt a child as a favor to a friend. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would test my patience, my principles, and ultimately, my love for the woman I thought I knew. As the days passed, the tension in our home grew palpable. My fiancée continued to press the issue, alternating between emotional pleas and cold shoulders. She enlisted her family to try and persuade me, painting me as selfish and uncaring for not wanting to help her best friend. One evening, about a week after the initial bombshell, I came home to find BF sitting in our living room, her son playing quietly in the corner. My fiancée gave me a look that said, "Be nice," as I walked in. "Hey," I said awkwardly, setting down my briefcase. I didn't know we were having company. BF stood up, wringing her hands. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by. I wanted to talk to you about the adoption." I felt ambushed. Looking at my fiancée, I saw a glimmer of triumph in her eyes. She thought bringing BF here would sway me. I took a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. "Look, BF," I started. "I understand you're in a difficult situation, but..." She cut me off. "Please, just hear me out. I know it's a lot to ask, but you and fiancé are so stable, so loving. My son would have such a better life with you." I glanced at the little boy playing with his toys, blissfully unaware of the adults discussing his fate. It made my stomach churn. "Have you really thought this through?" I asked BF. "He's your son. Are you truly prepared to give him up?" BF's eyes welled with tears. "It's because he's my son that I want to do this. I can barely make rent, let alone provide him with everything he needs. With you, he'd have opportunities one could never give him. My fiancé chimed in, see? This is what's best for everyone. We'd be giving him a stable home, and BF would still be in his life. I felt cornered. They were both looking at me expectantly, as if I was the only thing standing in the way of this perfect solution. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was all wrong. I'm sorry, I said firmly, but I can't agree to this. It's not fair to the child, and it's not how I want to start our marriage. There have to be other ways we can help. BF burst into tears, and my fiancé rushed to comfort her, shooting me a look of disappointment and anger. As they huddled together on the couch, I felt like an outsider in my own home. That night, as we lay in bed, my fiancé turned to me. I can't believe you embarrassed me like that in front of BF. How could you be so heartless? I stare at the ceiling, feeling a mix of frustration and disbelief. Heartless? I'm trying to be the voice of reason here. We can't just adopt a child on a whim. She sat up, her voice rising. It's not a whim. I've been thinking about this for weeks. BF needs our help, and this is the perfect solution. Perfect for whom? I countered. Have you considered the legal implications? The emotional impact on the kid? On us? We're not even married yet, and you want to adopt a child. We're getting married in 2 months, she snapped. And I thought you wanted children. I do, I said, sitting up to face her. But I want our own children when we're ready. Not like this. Her face hardened. Well, maybe if you're not ready for this, you're not ready for marriage either. Those words hung in the air between us, heavy with implication. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized just how serious the situation had become. The next few weeks were a nightmare. My fiancé became increasingly hostile, constantly bringing up the adoption and making snide comments about my lack of compassion. She started excluding me from wedding planning, making decisions without consulting me. One day, I came home to find her and BF poring over legal documents on our dining table. What's going on? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew. My fiancé looked up, her expression defiant. We're looking into the adoption process. I figured since you're being so difficult, I get the ball rolling myself. I felt my blood pressure rising. Are you serious? You can't just do this without my consent. BF had the decency to look uncomfortable, but my fiancé stood her ground. Watch me. This is happening, with or without your approval. That was the moment I knew our relationship was over. The woman I loved, the one I thought I knew, was willing to bulldoze over my feelings and make unilateral decisions about our future. It wasn't just about the adoption anymore. It was about trust, respect, and our fundamental compatibility as partners. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I knew I had to do. If that's how you feel, then I think we need to call off the wedding. The room fell silent. BF's eyes widened, and my fiancé's face went pale. What? She whispered, her voice barely audible. You heard me, I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. If you're willing to make such a massive decision without my input, then we clearly aren't ready for marriage. I'm calling off the wedding. The silence that followed was deafening. My fiancé's face cycled through a range of emotions, shock, disbelief, anger, before settling on a cold fury. You can't do that, she hissed. Everything's already planned. People have bought tickets, made arrangements. You can't just cancel everything. I stood my ground. Watch me, I said, echoing her earlier words. This isn't a healthy relationship anymore, and I won't be bullied into a lifelong commitment I'm not ready for. BF, looking increasingly uncomfortable, started gathering her papers. Maybe I should go. No, stay, my fiancé snapped. We're going to sort this out right now. But there was nothing left to sort out in my mind. I'd made my decision, and with each passing moment, I became more certain it was the right one. I turned to leave the room, needing some space to think. My fiancé grabbed my arm. Where do you think you're going? We're not done here. I gently but firmly removed her hand. I'm going for a walk. I need some air. When I get back, I expect you both to be gone. We can talk about the logistics of canceling the wedding tomorrow. As I walked out the door, I heard my fiancé's voice, thick with tears and rage. You'll regret this. You're making a huge mistake. But I didn't feel like I was making a mistake. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. I called our wedding vendors to cancel, contacted guests to inform them of the situation, and began the painful process of disentangling our lives. My fiancée alternated between pleading with me to reconsider and threatening legal action for the costs incurred. One afternoon, as I was boxing up some of her things, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was BF. "Can we meet? There's something you need to know." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a local coffee shop. When I arrived, BF was already there, looking nervous and fidgety. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down. I owe you an apology and an explanation." I raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to continue. BF took a deep breath. "The adoption idea, it wasn't mine. It was all your fiancé's plan." I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. "What do you mean?" "She came to me about 2 months ago," BF explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "She said she wasn't sure about having kids with you, that she wanted to test your parenting skills before fully committing. She thought if she could get you to agree to adopt my son, it would prove you were ready for fatherhood." I sat there stunned. The betrayal cut deep, but a part of me wasn't entirely surprised. It explained the sudden urgency, the emotional manipulation. BF continued, "I was desperate enough to go along with it at first, but seeing how it's torn you two apart, I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I'm so sorry for my part in this." As I left the coffee shop, my mind was reeling. The woman I had planned to spend my life with had concocted an elaborate scheme to test me, using her best friend's child as a pawn. It was manipulative, cruel, and showed a fundamental lack of trust and respect. But my fiancée wasn't done yet. When I returned home and confronted her with what I'd learned, she flew into a rage. "How dare you meet with her behind my back?" she screamed. "This was supposed to be between us." "There is no us anymore," I said, my voice calm but firm. "What you did is unforgivable. Using a child to test me? Manipulating your best friend? This is over." Her face contorted with fury. "You can't just walk away. I've invested too much in this relationship." That's when things took an even uglier turn. Over the next few weeks, my ex-fiancée launched a smear campaign against me. She told our friends and family that I'd cheated on her, that I'd stolen money from our joint accounts, that I was abusive. She even went so far as to contact my employer, spreading lies about my character. I was blindsided by the intensity of her retaliation. Friends I'd had for years suddenly stopped returning my calls. I received angry messages from her family members. My boss called me in for a meeting, asking about the concerning reports he'd received. It felt like my entire life was unraveling, but I refused to stoop to her level. Instead, I decided to fight back the right way. I contacted a lawyer and began documenting everything. Every text, every email, every social media post. I reached out to BF, who agreed to provide a written statement about the adoption scheme. I gathered financial records to prove I hadn't stolen any money. It was exhausting and emotionally draining, but I was determined to clear my name. The turning point came when my ex-fiancée, in her frenzy to destroy me, made a crucial mistake. She posted a long, detailed rant on social media, outlining all of her accusations against me. But in her anger, she inadvertently revealed the truth about her test with BF's child. The backlash was immediate and severe. Friends who had been avoiding me suddenly reached out, apologizing for believing her lies. Her family members, shocked by her behavior, began distancing themselves. BF, seeing the post, decided to come clean publicly about the whole scheme. My ex-fiancée's world began to crumble around her. She lost friends, damaged relationships with family, and her reputation took a massive hit. But I wasn't satisfied with just clearing my name. Her actions had nearly cost me my job, my friendships, and my reputation. I decided it was time for her to face the consequences of her actions. With the help of my lawyer, I filed a defamation lawsuit against her. The evidence was overwhelming. Her social media posts, text messages, emails, and witness statements from BF and others who had been caught in her web of lies. We also included the financial damages I had incurred from canceling the wedding and the potential impact on my career. The legal process was long and draining, but it was worth it. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. My ex-fiancée was ordered to pay a substantial sum in damages and to make a public retraction of all her false statements. The judge's scathing remarks about her behavior were particularly satisfying. The defendant's actions show a disturbing pattern of manipulation, deceit, and disregard for the well-being of others, the judge stated. This court finds her conduct reprehensible and hopes this judgment will serve as a deterrent for similar behavior in the future. The fallout from the lawsuit was significant. My ex-fiancée, now facing financial ruin and social ostracism, was forced to move back in with her parents. She lost her job when her employer learned of the extent of her deception. Her attempts to rebuild her life were hampered by the court order, requiring her to disclose the judgment against her to potential employers. As for BF, she apologized profusely for her role in the scheme. While I couldn't fully forgive her initially, I appreciated her eventual honesty. She sought therapy to work through her issues and focused on rebuilding her life and relationship with her son.